Joining me now is the legal analyst for The James Show, the great Jeremy Rosenthal from TexasDefenseFirm.com. And I got some questions for you because there's a constitutional crisis happening, Jeremy. Welcome back to the show, first of all.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Okay, so I'm hearing people on TV, on Team Red, they're saying Trump deploying the National Guard to California is righteous. On Team Blue, they're saying it's unconstitutional. Which one's correct, Jeremy?
Well, anything on television is correct. The answer is if it's the U.S. Marines that are being deployed by the President of the United States, it's unquestionably constitutional. Now, if it's the State National Guard or the Army National Guard, it's actually a ridiculously muddy question. Probably one that Trump wins, but it's we can get into the weeds with this one pretty far if you want, but it's not really as clear-cut as you might think.
So am I going to hear the words posse comitatus?
I don't know. That's like, is that Latin? Is that I'm not familiar.
Yeah. Don't be coy with me. Just tell me the answer.
Oh, I don't know. I really don't. James, man, I'm a homebody. Look, I mean, I watched my Lady Raiders lose the national championship the other night. My feed on my Facebook Reels is tornado warning videos. I do this law stuff as a hobby. I'll tell you this. The U.S. Constitution actually delegates the power of the state militia to Congress. Congress has given the president authorization to activate them in limited circumstances. And in most circumstances, Gavin Newsom would be right, and he does get to approve of when they are deployed. However, Donald Trump, the executive, does get to deploy them in instances where they're protecting federal property or preventing federal offenses, which is why I think the executive branch wins in this instance. And not only that, a lot of folks that I talk to are afraid that, well, a judge is just going to block this, they're just going to do that. We're not arguing about Social Security numbers getting dispersed. We're not arguing about immigration policy that can wait 30 days or 60 days. We're talking about the streets on fire. So I think that the courts are probably going to side with the executive if push comes to shove.
Well, what I see, and we're talking with Jeremy Rosenthal, TexasDefenseFirm.com, what I see from the amateur legal experts, like myself, I'm definitely maybe a top-seeded amateur, but not a pro. People keep bringing up the Posse Comitatus Act. The other one is the Insurrection Act. And there's a video that's floating around of Donald Trump in 2020 being asked why he doesn't call in the National Guard to the George Floyd protests. And they're using this as like a gotcha. We're like, see, even Trump admitted he can't send in the National Guard.
We have laws. We have to go by the laws. We can't move in the National Guard. I can call insurrection, but there's no reason to ever do that, even in a Portland case. We can't call in the National Guard unless we're requested by a governor.
So if that holds true, I think the key to that is unless I declare an insurrection. And so if the Insurrection Act says if there's an insurrection, he could legally deploy a National Guard or other military troops without the governor's approval. Does my amateur analysis check out?
Yes and no. Just because you declare it doesn't make it so.
Agreed.
That is I think where the rubber meets the road on this is that you can't just declare a national emergency, declare martial law, put tanks on the street just because, well, we're going to do this. The facts do have to some degree match. We kind of had this same debate over the Aliens Enemies Act, right, where the administration made, I think, a pretty clever argument where they said, look, in times of war, we're allowed to use extraordinary immigration remedies. And you could argue that Tren de la Agua or MS-13, them coming here as an invasion or an incursion or an act of war. And ultimately, it's a legal decision. Well, is it not? But the facts do sort of have to meet there. So you're a lot better than an amateur. You're like a 2 or 3 handicap here, James. You're pretty good at this.
Well, I haven't gotten paid for it yet, so only then would I dare call myself pro. But Diane over here on Facebook left a comment, and I think this is directed at you. Because you mentioned that he's allowed to deploy the Marines as long as it meets some certain qualifications. So she says, are the Marines in Los Angeles to protect federal property and free up federal police to help L.A. police? And she says federal law enforcement officers can be commissioned as peace officers in state or local jurisdictions, and a longer explanation under that, but sort of the same tact. So as long as they're not actually arresting people, the Marines can go and protect federal buildings. I think a lot of people are just trying to nail that part down.
Right. The reason why the president, in my view, can deploy the Marine Corps is because they are under direct federal supervision, and he is absolutely, 3 ways till Sunday, the commander-in-chief over the United States Navy and, by extension, the United States Marine Corps. Whereas he's got these legal loopholes to some degree with the Army National Guard. That's why he can direct their movement. Now, once they're on the ground, what can they do? What can they not do? That's a little more in the mud. I mean, we've got in this country what's called habeas corpus. That's your right to petition the government directly and quickly for relief in certain situations if they're acting out of bounds. The Marines can't go out there and violate people's rights. They probably cannot go and act as if they were peace officers. But if you're the commander-in-chief of the United States of America and our armed forces, you could, in theory, send the Marines out to wherever, stand on the street corner and wash windows for people's cars.
Hey.
So from that standpoint, I think it's lawful.
Okay, I have a couple more good questions that came in through the email. Do you have time for another segment?
Of course, James, man, always.
Oh, well, I don't know. Maybe you have to run into immigration court or something real quick. We're talking with Jeremy Rosenthal, TexasDefenseFirm.com. If you have any questions for him, send them to me on the break. He'll answer a couple of the email questions coming up next. James at WBAP.com, or you can send me a message on Facebook or YouTube or X, or you know how all this works. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Jeremy Rosenthal continues. He's a legal analyst on the James Show, and he does TexasDefenseFirm.com. So I want to start with some questions that I got. 2 of these are via email. One of them is via Facebook message. Christina says on Facebook, can Newsom or Karen Bass be arrested? Now, I think this is predicated on the interview with Tom Homan over the weekend where he was asked about that, and I have that audio so I can play it to catch everyone else up.
You've also mentioned Mayor Karen Bass and Governor Gavin Newsom, and there have been threats, previously that if you stand in the way of your enforcement operations, you could be subject potentially to arrest. Are you saying that about Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom? Are they at risk of being arrested?
I'll say it about anybody. You cross that line. It's a felony to knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien. It's a felony to impede law enforcement from doing their job.
Do you think that the mayor of LA is doing that?
If she crossed that line, we'll ask the DOJ to prosecute. Do I think she's crossed the line? I don't think she's crossed the line yet. But I'm telling you, the warning we're sending is we're not going to tolerate people attacking our officers.
So my interpretation of that is I guess they could be arrested, but I don't expect them to get arrested. What do you think about that, Jeremy?
Defending your legal actions, filing lawsuits is not, I think, what the statute contemplates when you are talking about actively harboring or doing something of that nature. You look at the judges, the one in Wisconsin, the one in South Texas. Those are legal officials who made some poor choices when faced with ICE agents, and we can debate whether or not it's fair that the ICE agents put them in that position, but having been in that position, they certainly probably made some poor choices in those instances. But I don't think that that's what Tom Homan is really saying. He's being tough, but I haven't seen anything that the mayor of Los Angeles or that Gavin Newsom has done that would frustrate or harm or stop law enforcement. They're going to the courts, which is what they ought to do if they have a disagreement with how something's done and they have a legal basis to try to stop it.
All right, and thank you, Christina, for the question. Just include your town, too, so I can say Christina from, Watauga or wherever you're from. Next question. This came in an email, James at WBAP.com, from Matt in Dallas. Give 1 point to Matt for actually including his city. He says, I know you're talking with the lawyer on hold about Trump sending troops into L.A. I've been hearing that if Governor Abbott does not sign or veto the THC cannabis hemp ban, it goes into law June 22nd. Will you verify if this is correct or not with the lawyer during your segment? All right, that kind of took a left turn, but your response to that?
Does he need to stock up? Is that does he have until June? Is he wanting to know if he needs to go on a spending spree between now and June 22nd?
Smoke weed every day.
Well, the problem that you're going to have is that it's going to be illegal to possess it after that if the governor signs it. Most laws in Texas, and I haven't seen the effective date of this. If the governor signs it, most laws take effect on September the 1st of this year. And in some instances, if it takes a little while to get the government to roll it out, it could take place September 1st of the following year. For some reason, the legislature likes September 1st. Sometimes it can be the first of the year. I don't think the minute the governor signs it, it's in action, if that's what's being asked, because 20 days would be 20 days after the legislature ended. So I don't know that it would be the 22nd.
Yeah, so vape them if you got them, I guess. Next question comes from CJ in North Richland Hills. Thank you, CJ, for including your town. This is for the lawyer. Can the president declare martial law in Los Angeles if the current violence and destruction is not met in turn with jail, injury, or death as consequences? Nothing will solve the stupidity.
That would be pretty extreme. And I think that something like that would be a last resort from what I'm seeing and reading. I mean, we're watching some pretty bad stuff on the television.
I know this is an impossible question. Off the top of your head, when's the last time we had martial law anywhere in the United States?
Oh, I don't know that we did. Maybe the Civil War. Okay. I'm guessing, but I would think that would be when you look at a really interesting from a lawyer nerd academic standpoint. If you want to take a look at the military and when the president can do things that the states don't like. Obviously, you can look to civil rights. You can look to George Wallace. You can look to we're going to federalize the troops, let students integrate in. You can also look at the Civil War. You can look at instances where President Lincoln, where Kentucky was on the verge of perhaps joining the Confederacy. I think there's a famous quote. I'm probably going to butcher it, but it's something like, President Lincoln said, "I'd really like to have the Lord on our side, but I really have to have Kentucky." So the president can, in certain instances, take some pretty sweeping actions when it is in regards to the states. Martial law, I think, would be pretty extreme here, and suspending habeas and things like that. That's really, really hardcore stuff, and that's going to be the kind of stuff that I think the president could find himself fielding some really difficult questions from his own party. And I don't think that's necessarily where he wants to be. From what I'm seeing and what I'm reading, although the violence is never a good thing, it's the city of LA says we've got this under control. The state of California is also saying they've got it under control. Do we trust them? Do we believe them? I don't know. But I think martial law is I think that's pretty far out there.
Well, you know what? I have a couple more questions, but we're out of time. Thank you so much for lending your expertise. And look, if you want to send me some questions, I'll just save them up for next time Jeremy Rosenthal's on, and we can just have him answer questions from listeners. I was looking up the the martial law stuff used extremely sparingly in the United States, only for like little tiny localized riots, and it hadn't been happened in my entire life. The last one, 1961 or 1963, depending on which source I look at. So there's a quick answer there. Jeremy Rosenthal, TexasDefenseFirm.com. Thank you so much.
Thanks, James. Bye-bye.